Big thanks for joining me again on TMI Tuesday, and I'm your host, Philip Omo Bupong. Well, you agree with me that today being September 1 marks a countdown to EDO 2020. And today we'll be focusing on making votes count. There are a number of factors that are responsible to make votes count. And being that as it is, we have an x-ray on this. Factors, put them on the crucible and heat them up and see what substance they will culminate towards. And we're looking at the election day proper. You agree with me that sensitive materials, non-sensitive materials are to get to the polling units quite in time. And we have over 2,600 polling units scattered across the 192 wards in Edo State. And the basic thing here is Edo is deciding on who occupies Osadebe Avenue in this next 4 years. And discussing this vital topic with me, starting from my extreme left, I have former local government chairman of the Eastern Northeast local government, and he was running mate to Ize Yamu, who was the PDP governorship candidate in the 2016 gubernatorial race. He is an astute businessman and a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party. Honorable John Yakubu. Thanks for coming, John.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for your bringing me on board.
And next, I have former SSA to the governor in the office of the SSG, and he is a chieftain of the All Progressive Congress, Nathaniel Osamede. Thanks for coming, Nathaniel.
Thank you very much, Philip. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Well, you agree with me that this will be the major election amidst the COVID-19 pandemic that INEC will be conducting. And John Yakubu, we have this whole issues about the pandemic. Do you see the pandemic as a moment that could decide or that could tarnish or do anything to the credibility of the forthcoming polls in Edo State?
Well, for the pandemic, I think the people are prepared, and the political party as well as the government of today is also prepared because of the pandemic. You see the rules and regulations set by INEC.
Yeah.
On that day, you are expected to wear a mask before you could be allowed to vote. So I am sure that the issue of pandemic have been taken care of by the rules set up by INEC. And also, you are expected to queue up properly so that the issue of coming close together will not be there. So if on that day, like we are here together, I'm here with Nathaniel, he's wearing a face mask, and I'm also wearing a face mask, I'm sure everyone would have been protected on that day. Cast your vote, then you go back home. So I am not too sure, I'm not sure that the election proper will be affected by that pandemic. I want to say that we must encourage our people to come out. We must encourage them to come out. At least they should be able to afford a max of just 100 naira or less to enable them exercise their franchise. So we want to appeal to them, most especially those in the villages and in the town. Make yourself available. Cast your vote. The presiding officer will be protecting himself. You will be protecting yourself. So at the end of the day, you would have done your bit. And by the grace of God, I am not sure anything will happen.
Okay, still on you. Amidst the pandemic, we have about 2.2 million registered voters in Edo State.
Yes.
And from this figure, we have about 1.7 voter cards already distributed. And we have about over 400 that are yet uncollected that are for safekeeping in the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, what do you think this could do to the electoral process, most especially as during this pandemic we have a lot that were disenfranchised that turned 18 this year?
Well, it is not those who have not collected their voters that actually be disenfranchised from this election, because over time they've been given that opportunity for over 2-3 years to collect their voters card, but unfortunately that was not done. The only issue here is those who have registered between when the last registration was reviewed and this election. If not for the pandemic, COVID-19, I'm sure before now, INEC would have brought out a system to enable those who have not registered or who have attained the age of 18 to so register and be part of this electoral process. But unfortunately, that was not done. So a lot of those persons who attained the age of 18 from the last general election to today will not be able to vote in Edo State because of the fact that the review of that registration exercise was not done by INEC. So we make do with what we have. We make do with those who collected their card, and we make do with those who are registered and prepared to vote on that day. So let's not begin to discuss those who were not registered or those who did not collect their card. Those persons have been shut out of this process. Those persons have been shut out for this election on the 19th. So what we will do as a people and as a party is to mobilize those who are 100% ready to cast their vote on the 19th.
Okay, Nathaniel, we have about 18 days time for the D-Day proper on the election.
Yeah.
And political pundits are concerned about how the outcome of the election will be, basically looking at the threats of violence that's preceding the election. What are your thoughts in terms of how to nip this in the bud and how to intervene to make sure that the polls are credible?
Well, thank you so much. First and foremost, we want to talk to ourselves. You know, violence, masks the credibility of an election. Any election that violence is experienced is an election that is questionable, because violence will prevent people from voting. Violence will call to the fore the credibility of that election, because violence is an anti-election phenomenon wherever it occurs. When there is violence, a lot of people are disenfranchised. Those who have not voted before the violence occurred will not vote. And the votes that are cast in such an election most times does not count because they are nullified. At times, the whole unit can be nullified or cancelled. Ballot papers are destroyed. At times, ballot boxes are destroyed. And then you might even have collateral damages that is as serious as loss of life. So we want to appeal to Edo people that we can do elections. We've done elections in this state without bloodshed. And there is no need for bloodshed. When we who are involved in the perpetration of violence, when we sit down and articulate the issues, we articulate the program, we articulate the manifesto that will be presented to us by the various actors, by the various contestants, it will be easy for us to know, looking at our own experiences, our training, our exposure, our understanding. You do not need to engage any person in physical combat to make up your mind to vote for a person. I think the issues most times that generate or lead to violence is when the mental arguments are lost. When the main issues of elections are not being able, you are not able to articulate them. And when somebody who is on the losing end, knowing fully well that I have not been able to sufficiently convince people, he might resort to violence. Some people might use violence, they use violence as a technical weapon. That is to say, oh, this particular area, a lot of vote comes from that place. And because I know I'm not popular there, we will disrupt the election in that environment so that my opponent will not have more votes. All these are unnecessary. What is important in election is to convince the electorate. You have to be convinced. And if you are convinced in your mind, you do not need to be violent to play out your conviction. And you have to engage somebody on issues of discussion while you are making your choice. You should be able to articulate your reasons in such a convincing manner that you buy the man you are talking to over to yourself, or if he refuses to buy, but you have been able to deposit before him the reason why you are supporting. And if that is the case, there is no reason for violence. Those who perpetrate violence are those that have lost the debate, the intellectual debate, those that have lost the conviction, those that have seen themselves being inadequate in terms of the requirements, those who have not been able to sway the people. They use violence as a cover-up. And we Edo people must be very careful. You see, the life of an Edo man is very important. We should begin to place premium on the lives of an individual. It is morally wrong, it is spiritually wrong, it is socially and culturally wrong to take the life of another person because of election. After 4 years, this circle will come back again. So we are all Edo people. Who do you want to kill? Is he from Mars? Is he not your brother? What of after the election? Are we not still going to live together? So I believe that if we are conscious of these factors, there will be no need for anybody to resort to violence. And violence is an act of cowardice.
Thank you.
The brave in an election convince the electorate through the articulation of their programs, their vision, and mission for the state. But the cowardly who do not have sufficient credibility, who do not have sufficient facts to convince the people, will resort to violence. So in this election, I see a situation where there will be peace.
Okay.
There will be peace.
Okay, thank you. The INEC leadership has reiterated and warned that if the election or the electoral process is undermined by violence, there would be no declaration of winners. What do you think about this, John Jacobo?
Well, I hope they would not want to use it as a tool to make sure that this election is not concluded. I hope so, because we have watched INEC severally in other places. And most recently in Kogi, when there was bloodbath. Unfortunately, that election or that result was announced. It's part of the fact that somebody was locked in her house, and she was burnt in her house, and people watched it, videoed it. A time came when it was the issue of Tatata in Kogi. It's shameful that where Jega took us to, rather than make progress as a nation in terms of the electoral process, we are going backward. Where Jega took us to by way of permanent voters card and card reader that would have added credibility to the electoral process of this country, rather than sustain that momentum and allow it to continue, we are moving backward. When the INEC man is speaking, I am sure a lot of persons will begin to wonder whether INEC is just waking up. Because you have demonstrated with a lot of elections. You have seen a lot of instances where you ought to use to at least correct the process of having a credible election. But what did we get? It's so sad. And if we don't have a credible election, there's no way we can have good government. It's impossible. Once an election is rigged in favor of any person, there's no way the people can expect good government and governance from that person or from that process. Okay. So we must, as a people, and I want to use this opportunity to appeal to the president of this nation, to please apply the signature to the revised electoral bill, to plead with him, because we're talking about violence now. It is because there are loopholes that those people who want to perpetrate violence will exploit to their advantage. That's why they're talking about violence. If you know, like part of the electoral process have been put in place, that if a particular unit, you are not able to vote because the card reader is not functioning, or there was a problem of violence there, you have to come back 24 hours after to repeat that process, to repeat that pool. I am not sure any person will be beginning to prepare for violence. But because the present government have refused to take us a step further, rather than taking us a step further, we are going backward. That is where we have problem. I want to again appeal. If that is done, if he had appended the signature, and I know that between me and Nathaniel, I get to my polling unit to enable me vote, my fingerprint must be authenticated by the card reader. There's no way I will invite people to come and begin to help themselves over rigging of election. But because we deviated, because we moved away from the norm, from the standard, everywhere in the world, that is where we are today. Okay,
let's look at counting of the ballot papers and, of course, release of results in polling units, where even the leadership of INEC did say that they are going to ensure that they perfect the process where the release of results will be in the portals of the various polling units so that everyone can see. Don't you think this is a credible process or a laudable aspect of the INEC in this direction?
Yes, Philip. Before I respond to that, let me quickly add something to the question you asked John Yakubu. You see, the process of NIPI violence in the board starts from the build-up towards the election day.
They didn't ask me a question of
You
violence.
understand? It leads down. INEC saying if there is violence, they are going to cancel. To me, that is a blanket language. There are other issues that will arise from such blanket cancellation. We are Nigerians. And going by the contemporary utterances of the judiciary, some judges, you begin to build up in your mind what kind of declarations will be made because people will go to court. What is the standard? What does the electoral law say where there is violence? That against the utterances of the head of INEC. Which one is superior? His utterances or the status book? Until we begin to play by the rules, until institutions begin to uphold the provisions of the Constitution concerning the establishment, not the utterances by heads of such institutions who might be ignorant on some of these provisions, we will not have strong institutions. What has been the standard? If there is violence in a particular place, how is it treated by INEC status book? Do you repeat the election? Do you cancel? What has been the decision of INEC before now? In dealing with violent places where election has been violent on election day, how have they dealt with it? Vis-a-vis what, according to your reference, the man has said, when there is violence, they will cancel the election and the election might be inconclusive.
So you are not at home with that, stricto sensu?
I am not. I am not. Because it will give rise to a whole lot of litigations. And these days of frivolous injunctions and restraining orders, we might have an election, we might have a situation in Edo State where we might not be able to deal with the election before November 12th. And that will become a constitutional problem. Now, some people hearing this, a man who knows that he's going to lose this election, from the facts coming out from the field, hearing INEC saying this, what do you think he will do? He will spoil the chances of his opponent because he already knows that he himself has no hope.
So you mean that could whet the appetite of...
Exactly, violence. Yes, it could whet the appetite of violence. When I know that I'm going to lose an election, and then the INEC chairman says, well, if there is violence, then the whole process will be cancelled. And probably you will come up with a statement of inconclusive election. What do you think I will do? So that is left for INEC. Now, back to the question of you asked me.
Yeah, concerning the release of results.
Yes, the release, it is a good development.
Yes, looking at the various polling units where there will be porters.
Yes, but remember.
Be at the glare of the public.
Yes, in the past elections, INEC denied that they hadn't a porter. Now, are we sure that these porters are functional? Has it been test run? Testing result on the porters of INEC might not conclude the election per se. Some of these porters can be hacked. Nigerians are very smart. Assuming there is a mole inside INEC who will trade the figures. You know, the issue is that the transmission of results between the polling unit and the collection center, that to me, that is where the problem is.
But it's our responsibility to at least give some benefit of doubt.
Yes, it's a good one.
Yes, to the electoral umpire.
Yes, he said
that will be presumptive if we begin to say this even before the issues are on the ground.
Well, you see, when you are looking at issue, you look at it from broad perspective.
Okay.
Narrow-mindedness affects the present and the future. Like he said, we started with card reader. How successful have we been with the card reader? And he believed that if an improvement has been made on the card reader, if maybe subsequently we'll be practicing the use of the card reader from Jega's time to this time, probably would have had freer and more credible election result. Now we are talking about porters. The same porters that was a very controversial issue. So a few months back, INEC said they don't have a porter, and people say you had a porter. You posted results on that porter. And INEC said that was never the case. So now if they are going to post results on the porter, very, very credible. How many people can access the porter? So apart from putting this result in their portals of the various units, the results should be read. There should be a credible way of transmitting the result after counting in the presence of the voters in the polling units
and the party agents.
That is a more credible way. But the problem is that INEC has not been able to find a way around protecting the credibility of the result declared by the presiding officer before, in the full view of every person, transmitting such result between the polling unit and the collation center, from the collation center to where the results are going to be declared. If that process is credible, and what we hear declared in every unit, the people in that unit says, yes, this is the result that was declared here, why would our elections not be credible?
Okay. What are your thoughts along this line, John? We are all about making votes.
Yes, we are making all about. Well, I'm like you said, I'm a little bit surprised the way and manner we are going about this thing, because when we talk here, we talk to our people. We don't talk to ourselves, though we are here discussing. Over time, Nathaniel, elections in other states have been cancelled, not released or declared because of violence. So the issue of Edo State is not just one out of the blue. Take the Adeleke Oshun's election. It was not declared because there was violence in a particular place, and INEC had to repeat that election in the affected polling unit. The same thing we can do. So what Jega, sorry, not Jega, what Yakubu said, what Yakubu said is not new. He's just reiterating it. It's not new. So we have had it over time. Even the issue of Port Harcourt, we have had it so many other places. So what the man is not saying is not new, so that we can move ahead.
Okay.
Number two, I want to applaud.
In respect of the result.
Yes, I want to applaud INEC. I have been involved in the electoral process for over 30 years. Now, at the unit level, before you put in result into the portal, the agent of PDP or the agent of APC and the agent of the various party would have signed. So it becomes difficult for you to alter that result at the unit level once you know that by completing the process in your presence, that result has been transmitted. So it becomes difficult for you to want to alter that result between the polling unit and the collation center. Because once that is done, whether INEC, I don't want to go in there because we're not discussing about why INEC denied they had a portal or not. Because we go in there today, we will not discuss the matter for which we are here to discuss.
Okay.
They denied before they didn't have, and now they have agreed. At least they have agreed now that they have a portal. And we know by the situation of technology, what INEC is about to do is the best for everybody.
Okay, so that's laudable.
It's laudable because once in my unit, I am not going to be the agent of my unit. Somebody will represent me. Somebody will represent Nathaniel on that day in that unit. If that man is not
write my name so much.
If that man is not credible enough to sign a figure that will be entered into the portal, it means that the party was not represented. So it is not the fault of INEC. It is the fault of the agents who will ensure and make sure that the result emanating from that unit is clear, correct, and a reflection of the vote that was cast. So I want to thank INEC for bringing it, because few minutes after that election, the result will be in the public domain. So if you come to a particular ward, a unit where you scored 0, or a unit where you scored 2, and you come to the collation center, the result is already with INEC. What that means is that at the end of collation, by touch of a switch, INEC would have known the total result emanating from Edo State. So that if you are giving them a different result as against the one coming from the portal, they will have to find out why.
Okay. Thank you. Let's look at the aspect of vote buying, because in the previous election in Edo State in 2016, there were reports, allegations over this menace, and where it was also alleged that even the security agents turned the blind eye on all of this. Now, what do you think should be the intervention in ensuring that this aspect of vote buying is nipped in the bud going forward?
Yes, let me quickly say, unlike the picture he was trying to paint, I am not saying that the statement by INEC that the results were going to be put on on their portal was not ID or was not proper. It's a good one. I am only saying
the implementation.
Yes, the process of doing that, if it is credible, that we all accept, then fine. And I equally said, some persons who are underprepared might deliberately do that because the information is already in the domain. They might work towards that as a way of covering up their inadequacies and lack of campaign materials.
Work towards that in terms of the result, the release of the result in the portals?
Yes.
How would that be?
I've explained to you before that somebody might just decide, oh, since this is going to happen, and I know I'm not popular here, then let us do something to make sure that the result is not, the result or the election there does not happen.
Okay, bringing about violence.
Exactly.
Okay, we passed that.
Yes.
We passed that stage.
Yes. Now,
we passed that stage. We are looking at how results can be announced or can be disseminated in a way that we carry the people along and make their votes count.
Exactly, I agree with you.
So
now back to
the portal system is seen as laudable.
Yes, it's laudable.
But what we are after is how it can be implemented.
The implementation and the credibility and end result. That's just what concerns me. It's laudable. It's going to be very fast.
Okay.
Right from the polling unit, the man who sends the result, the process of sending the result, if it is public for everybody to know and examine in the glare of every person, and that information is given not privately, openly, and then we know it's transmitting to the head office, and this result is the result from unit this, word this, place this. These are the result. Party Z, X, Y. Everybody is listening and hearing. And then as it's transmitting that result, probably there is a board in front of the polling unit where the voters are seeing the same utterances of this man being translated into figures and computed on the screen. Everybody will be happy.
So if this happens, it will be
wonderful. We will give INEC a clap.
Okay, but
now back to vote buying.
Yes, because
vote buying.
That's also a burning issue that we are yet to tackle.
Unfortunately, it has crept into our political culture. But we need to do everything as much as possible to remove it. But you see, habits die hard. First and foremost, if there is no receiver, there will be no giver. The mentality of our people, the mindset of our people, first and foremost, is what we need to disabuse. The minds of the people should be addressed in such a way that when you are offering them money for vote, they will tell you no. The sensitization process lies in the hands of INEC, lies in the hands of the political parties. And then the overall,
which you are a stakeholder.
Yes, the overall is stemming poverty.
Because that's where it's coming from.
That is where the whole thing comes from. Let me tell you, Philip. So people will say, thank God. This one, when they give me so, now my own, I don't chop my own for Nigerian government money. Because the man does not, you understand what I'm saying?
Because they seem not to have confidence in the process and even in the players.
Yes, and that is so unfortunate. That is because over time, government have not been able to meet the needs, the felt needs of the people. And the people have now resorted to self-help. By the time you say the central bank gives loan to farmers, the state government collect the funds, and such loans are not given to farmers to farm. At the end of the day, the farmer is left with his poor cutlass and hoe over time to continue to scratch a living, to scratch the earth and make a living for himself. And this money that has been so released does not get to him. He hears it on radio. He hears it when you are casting your news. He might even scramble, get his way to Benin, fill the normal form, do everything, and at the end of the day, nobody will even call him to say, come for an interview or not. And he hears that the money has been disbursed. The government comes out to say the money has been disbursed. And you begin to wonder, by the time you disburse billions, at least in your local government, some beneficiaries, you should see them and know them. And if the impact of such benefit will reflect in the local domain. So, poverty. So when they see, voters look forward to it. I must tell you. So we'll tell you.
And this could be happening in the presence of security agents.
On that day, some might see and turn a blind eye.
Okay.
You understand? Okay.
But
it's only in rare cases where a policeman who sees that is supposed to stop it.
Okay, John Yakubu, I want you to join in this. What do you make of this? Is it a menace that can be tackled?
Well, it has turned to a menace that must be tackled.
Okay.
Because if we don't tackle it, we will not have development. If we don't tackle it, government will not move forward. If we don't tackle it, the resources needed by government to develop the society will not be there.
And this cut across major political parties.
How do you expect a man who probably would have sold his house in Akpakpava to win an election? You win an election in the sense that sold his father's property in Akpakpava to win an election, and you expect the man, and the money from that property probably would have been given to people because of the election. How do you expect that man to get to the office and begin to think of the people? So we are practically part of the process. We are responsible. We are part of it. We must disabuse the mind of the people to embrace free, fair, and credible election. And I don't want to go back to the issue of money given into, like you mentioned, in the last election. My problem partly is with the fourth estate of the realm. Partly because you are all there. You are part of the process. You see it there. You must report it the way it is, no matter whose ours is God. Because once that is done, it is because we don't hold Nigerians to accountability. A man says one thing yesterday, and he's doing another thing today. The press will just carry it as if a new day, a new dawn is here. Why not remind the man of his past? Why not remind John Yakubu of my past?
If you say you are blaming the fourth term, are you saying that reports have been made in that direction?
I said partly. I said partly.
Yes, because if you look at that, if you look at the 2016
I will tell you a particular report.
2016 election, there were reports on that.
Hold on. Don't the way the civilized press
talking about measuring news.
It's not the way the civilized press will. No, it's not the way the civilized press will report it. It is not part of it. The civilized. I'll tell you an example. Okay. In 2013, when the third time they were conducting my local government election in Uromi, the press, your ITV, everybody, the channels were all there. While we were there collecting results with the presiding officer from the different world, right there making sure that the process will be credible. Few minutes after, we started hearing the result being declared by the same ITV. And the pressman came to me and started asking me, Yakubu, what do you think of the result being declared in Benin? And I asked him, you are here. You are part of the process. We are doing collation. And somebody in Benin is releasing result. What is supposed to be your report? You are supposed to come to the air and say, look, we are surprised we are here. Everybody is here. The process is ongoing. But while we are here, we are hearing that a different thing is being announced from Benin. When you do that, you don't need John Yakubu to support your relief before you do that. But let's also look at power play. Let's also look at power play within the government. It's not power like the intervention that could. No. Please. You asked a question, and I partly said that the fear of the fourth estate of the realm brings about development in any society. You must take your responsibility to a point that the people will now begin to embrace you. I told you, the way you report issue, you see a man killing a man, you are not a judge. You are supposed to report, we are here, man A is slaughtering man B. You leave the rest of the court to judge whether man A was right to have slaughtered man B. But in Nigeria, what you see is that, like you said, you saw it, you witnessed it, but what we see is that, money is exchanging hands. You ought to have, at that time, report to the people who is responsible for giving out money. And for so doing, the man will go back. But because that was not done, and you're going to go back to the studio and say, we were in Center A, we saw some people giving out money, even when you have your cameras. So that's number one.
Well, I think in that election, a lot was.
Did you show any?
What you're talking about now is also lies in the role of the government.
No.
Like we have the security agents.
No.
The situation where it was alleged that security agents, some of them.
How
do we tackle that?
I will want to conclude this by saying that security agents are not angels. They are part of the process. They are part of Nigerians. If you report them, if they realize that they will properly reported for the role that they are playing, they will maintain a neutral situation. But when they know that nobody will report them for doing such an act. Don't forget, a lot of police officers have been dismissed in the police force because of just the phone recording of their activity. But rather than do that, what do we see? We come back to the studio to begin to ask John Yakubu, like he said, I keep mentioning his name, Nathaniel, of what we think about money distribution.
Okay, some political pundits argue that the role of power play, the role of incumbency factor, could also weaken this aspect of really, hitting this, nipping this in the bud of vote buying. Because you look at political parties, for instance, that could also be cited as involved in this process. Now, do you see that intervention of the incumbency factor or power from the center, or who has a charge over security agents?
Yes, incumbency has always been a factor all over the world. All over the world, not only in Nigeria or Edo State. Incumbency is a factor because the man who is right there, he controls resources, he controls funds. He controls the machinery of government. Not agencies, not departments that are supposed to be playing a supervisory role. Departments that are supposed to be playing the role of watchdog over government activities, over personnel in government. The role the police play in the build-up to an election matters a lot. The language of INEC, both body and oral language, matters a lot. Like he has said, the activities of the fourth realm of the estate, which is the press, the way they report election, activities of election, and the build up towards an election in any part of the country equally matters a lot. Now the disposition,
but don't also forget that there are rules that guide.
That is what we are saying.
Now, these rules are not brought up.
I have not accused the press per se as responsible. I am just saying we all have responsibilities.
Yes.
And like he said, Nigerian journalism has to go beyond the excess of reportage. It has to go to the realms of investigative, the realms of truth and honesty, no matter whose us is God. Like he said, video clips sent to the appropriate authority has led to the dismissal of policemen from service. Now, I want to tell you one thing. Where the agencies, apart from the incumbent man, where they have a role to play. For instance, the commissioner of police is not subjected to the dictates of the governor, because he's there representing an agency that is supposed to secure life and property, including that of the governor, and not that of the governor alone. So when matters are reported, the reaction of the police to issues to the build-up of election, the way the police react, matters a lot. Let me give you some few instances to buttress what I'm saying. Tires were burnt at Airport Road at the time, some few weeks ago in Benin City. Vehicles were burnt. As we speak, the police has not been able to arrest one person.
Well, we can't say that now because
if it is arrested, it will be the public domain.
You're only speaking.
It will be the public domain.
No.
That is what I'm saying.
I think.
Tell me, give me reference.
I think we can leave that because I don't have the right panelists to discuss that. So I think we can leave that aspect alone.
Fine. The incumbency factor will come to play. Yes, because the incumbent can influence these agencies. That is what we are saying.
Okay, thank you. There have been campaigns as we round off. There have been campaigns have been going far and far-reaching, and we have major political parties here, the APC, the PDP. What do you make of this campaign so far? Do you see these campaigns as issue-based that could determine the fairness and credibility of the forthcoming polls in Edo State?
Well, I can speak for my party.
Yes.
Because I have listened and I have worked very closely with the head of the campaign and the leader of the party, the governor, His Excellency Godwin Obaseki. I have not, in any of the campaign, seen a place, rather than trash issue, he cast aspersion on any person. I have not. And I applaud him for that. Unless there are places unknown to me that any other person listening to this program today can bring out and say, oh, while His Excellency was campaigning in point A, B, C, and D, he did abuse Mr. B, Mr. C, and Mr. D. I want to applaud him for that. His campaign, our campaign, have been issue-based. And part of the issues are very clear, are in the public domain. We are saying we are going to move from the position of excellence in terms of infrastructural development to a different level. We are telling them we are going to take, we have done A, we have done B, we are going to do C. And the people are aware. And if you give us time in this program to begin to discuss those issues, where I think that the governor have done very well and is saying that we will do better, we will go ahead. But if that is not what we are discussing here today, issue-based campaign, you cannot take them away from PDP. We are not into character assassination. I will not come to television station or cry the podium to begin to campaign and begin to assassinate the character of another man. No. If Edo, like the governor said when he was campaigning in Isan, the situation in Edo State today is that we have, let me just mention this, we have more generation. In Edo State, you have a generation capacity of over 1,250 or 1,300. But here in Edo, what we need to give Edo people 24-hour supply of light is less than 300 megawatt. But here we are, the situation is so pathetic that you don't even have up to 80 or 50 megawatt for the whole of Edo. And not only that, to him, even having that megawatt already existing in Edo, on his own, I want to say this in all honesty and sincerity, if all the 36 state government can, with the availability of gas, can come to contribute 55 megawatts like the governor of Edo State have done in less than 3 years, this is not campaign. If every state, out of the 36 states of this federation, if each state can bring in additional 55 megawatts like His Excellency has done, I am sure that we will have some more electricity for our people. This is not campaign issue. So done? Okay. Done? Okay. No, he has asked the question we have done. No, you react to that. No, before reaction, Edo people are aware that as of today, even BEDC is aware that there is a contribution of additional 55 megawatts from Oshomo. Nobody can deny that. It's there for everybody to see. Now, having done that, it is expected, or it was expected, that even if you add 1 megawatt by a state governor, you ought to have more light. You can go back to the public and go back to BEDC to see what has prevented this uploading of this 55 megawatts into the body of additional electricity for Edo State. You are speculating. I am not speculating.
Like he said he can only speak for his party, and he's speaking.
I am not speculating. Just a minute. Okay. What we say here, it is left for Edo people to know whether there is an additional electricity which they are seeing on Sapler Road or not. Not me speculating, but what we are telling the people.
All right. I want to quickly say this. Yeah. You see, when you do a double speak in a medium like this, you tend to mislead the people. You say the governor has added. And in your concluding statement, you said if only Edo people will know the issues that have prevented this 55 megawatts from being added to the electricity supply of Edo State, then where is the extra energy that has been created if the Edo people are not enjoying it already? You are talking about the bottlenecks. What is the cause of these bottlenecks? You see, Philip, until a project is taken from foundation to conclusion and commission, and the people begin to receive the benefit of that project, you cannot claim it to be a completed project. You are dwelling in the realms of speculation. And that is misleading to the public. If you have said the governor has been able to generate, but this has not reflected in additional megawatt supply to the electricity, consumption of Edo State, then I will be at home with you. You see, slogans, catchphrases, has been what we've experienced in Edo State in the last 4 years. Phrases that will catch your attention. Slogans that will rest in your mind and you begin to dream of them as reality. But on the ground, it is hollow.
Okay, but you seem to suggest that these projects are not on the ground.
As far as
When
I'm
you say on the
concerned,
ground is hollow,
yes.
you're saying that the projects are not on the ground.
When
the project is not
it
yet
is
completed.
Until the people are using it, that project is not a project.
Okay.
That is what I am saying. Until the people are using it, it is not. The central hospital that was a subject of a lot of controversies was not being used until at a particular time, a lot of people had to prevail and come into it. Now that hospital is functional. You can say the new central hospital in Benin is working. While it was locked up, it was not working. That is my mindset towards this. Okay. So until we begin to drop slogans, you see, we are beginning to obey. You remove the cutting from the people's faces. When you use catchphrases and slogans, and you do not live up to these phrases and slogans, it becomes a scam.
Okay, do you see your campaigns for your party
issue-based?
Issue-based.
Yes, the simple agenda is a smart document that in it is articulated what the PDP, the APC party will do, the governor intends to do, carrying Edo people along. And in the policies of traditional ruler, POI has never stopped, Pastor Sazezeyam has never stopped quoting and specific aspect of the simple agenda to traditional rulers, specific aspect of the simple agenda to professional bodies. He has held meetings with professional bodies. He has held meetings with chambers of commerce and industry. He has held meetings with ambassadors and representatives of other countries. The West is taking the same simple agenda, breaking it down, taking it from market to market. We talk of infrastructural renewal, infrastructural expansion and urban renewal. That streets, roads that are constructed, they should be up to global acceptable standards.
Okay.
And that simple agenda is a document that is being embraced, so much so that people are making, for the very first time, open donation to the campaign of Pastor Osazezeyamo.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
especially when it comes from areas like traditional domains.
Thank you.
It shows to a very large extent what the simple agenda stands for.
Thank you.
And it is the simple agenda that is the campaign instrument of the APC.
Thank you. You've articulated the point. Big thanks, Nathaniel Osamede, for taking our time to be part of this show. And big thanks, John Yakubu, for taking our time to be part of this show. We hope to do this again as the time provides us to have such platform. Well, there's much we can take on the discussion segment. It's still TMI. Stay with me.